This segment is sponsored by the Nevada Motor Transport Association. This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome the candidates for Washoe District 4, running for the Nevada Senate. Ben Kieckhefer is here, Todd Taxpayer Bailey, Assemblyman Cobb, who wants to move up to the Senate, and Frank Wright, all Republicans. Welcome to the program. Ty, I don't want to spend more than 30 seconds on this, but it's been all over the news. What's the story on you kicking over Sheila Leslie's sign the other day?
Yeah, we were all leaving the Bighorns dinner, and it was my understanding what happens at Bighorns stays at Bighorns. So I wasn't assuming this would come up today. But if I caused any problems there, I'm already apologized and said happy to replace that sign.
Well, should we have concerns about your judgment?
No, it's just a yard sign.
Okay. All right. Like I said, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this. Let's start out with what the really big issue is going into the next session, which is the best information I have from Senator Townsend, in fact, is that we're looking at almost a $4 billion gap in the budget. How would you plan to address that?
Well, I think that's a higher figure than I've heard. I've heard, $3 billion out of a $7 billion budget, and it is, Well,
by the time everything's put into it, it gets pretty close.
We're looking at about half, regardless of how you look at it. The real issue is we need to pare down government to its most, effective and essential levels. We need to cut our spending to that level, and at that point, we need to evaluate as a state how we provide our services. Work with the local governments, work with the state, evaluate who does what, and be able to provide the services that we need within the revenue that we have.
In your day job, you're already working with a state organization here that is, I would say, bare bones at this point in time. Mm-hmm. How do we possibly cut that much money out of the budget?
The Department of Health and Human Services, which is where I currently work, I'm going to resign after I get elected to maintain separation of powers. But we make up about a third of the general fund budget. You have K-12 and higher education makes up about 50%. You add 30% for health and human services, and you achieve 80% of the state general fund spend at that point. You really need to look at paring down and creating the efficiencies that are available. Right now, we are just now implementing an electronic system to access and process applications within DHHS. This should have been done long ago, and be able to utilize the efficiencies that you see in the private sector, bring them into government, and become more effective in how we do our business.
Todd, same question to you.
Sam, first of all, I do agree with Senator Townsend's numbers. In fact, I think he's being conservative. Depending on the economy, we could see a number even bigger than that. And so the number one job for the Nevada legislature is creating an environment that creates a lot of jobs, many, many new jobs. And I believe the way to do that is to eliminate the payroll tax. We need to stop taxing the creation of jobs. That'll get people working again. That'll get revenue coming into the state again. And that'll end this discussion that we're having that's frankly very divisive about cutting taxes or cutting budgets. We need to get Nevada back to a place where we create a lot of new jobs. And if I'm elected to the Nevada Senate, that's exactly what I'm going to work on, number one.
How much money do you think that would free up?
Well, in terms of every individual employer, that's going to vary. It's about $250 million out of the state budget that you have to cover when you eliminate that tax. But regardless, we need to create jobs in the state of Nevada. That's why we are where we are, is because the jobs are not there, and that's what we need to be focused on.
Okay, your view coming from the Assembly, and if you head into the Senate, it's a huge number.
Yeah, it is, and I've consistently voted against these tax increases that we've seen over the years here. And I think that we need people who have been consistent in the record and who have said, I know how to create jobs, and that's how we do it, by making sure that we're not raising taxes. In terms of how we get people back to work, here's three things right off the bat. Number one, stop paying benefits to illegal immigrants. Number two, reform the PERS system. Number three, make sure that we have enough money into the private sector as possible so that we're not increasing taxes for things like all-day kindergarten and things like that. When you create programs and you create more government in the middle of a recession, you need to vote against it, and I've consistently done that.
But aren't you seeing in the economy right now in our state that all we've been doing is cutting?
Oh, absolutely not. No, we've been raising taxes at the same time. And when I say we, I mean the legislature. I've stood firm against raising taxes, and they've done that every single session. If you go look at the record, past probably 20 years, every single session they raise taxes. So if we're flush with money, if we're short on money, every single time they come up with a reason to raise taxes. That's why I say, hey, enough is enough. Stop raising taxes, put in reforms, and make sure we keep the money in the private sector.
Well, up until this last year, one of the reasons why the budget kept increasing, one of the reasons was that the population was growing.
Yes, but the budget has far outpaced the population growth. And you can look at the actuarial tables. It's to the tune of almost double what the population and inflation growth has been. So there's no reason why government should be growing at that pace, especially in the middle of a recession.
Frank, how do you look at this potential budget shortfall of almost $4 billion, half the budget?
The recession has a strange way of drawing a lot of attention to our policymakers and our lawmakers, and it brings in accountability. The private sector, the business sector, all of a sudden finding themselves out of jobs, out of work, out of funds to survive. They now look towards their legislators to find solutions to these serious problems. And a recession, as bad as it can be, sometimes will force legislators, lawmakers to cut their costs, cut their spending, reassess the way in which they are building government and adding to the government's costs. And we have, for the last 10 years, had a crazy increase in government spending. And now we have to cut back. And the painful part of that is that we're losing a lot of jobs. We're losing a lot of businesses. As you drive from Carson City to Reno, you're going to see a lot of vacant buildings. It's because of the policies that we have enacted that haven't worked, because of the taxes that have been imposed that are driving businesses out of the state. And what we have to do is change that. We need to bring businesses back into the state. We need to create jobs, and we need to have a favorable climate for those businesses to operate in. And that is not being done right now, and that's why I'm running.
Okay, let's take a break. More on this debate when we come back.
To contact Nevada Newsmakers, call 775-857-2244 or go to NevadaNewsmakers.com.